Muy buenas tardes. Vamos a estar ofreciendo interpretación simultánea al español durante esta reunión. Si desea escuchar la interpretación en español, haga clic en el botón de interpretación en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla Zoom. Verá un icono en forma de globo terráqueo que se encenderá justo después de estas instrucciones. Si nos acompaña por medio de Zoom para teléfonos inteligentes, seleccione su idioma haciendo clic en donde dice más o en los tres puntos de la esquina inferior derecha de la pantalla. Seleccione interpretación del idioma, elija español y haga clic en donde dice listo. Si desea escuchar solo al intérprete y no a los oradores originales, asegúrese de hacer clic en donde dice silenciar audio original. Good afternoon. We'll be offering simultaneous interpretation in Spanish during this meeting. If you wish to hear Spanish interpretation during this meeting, please click the interpretation button at the bottom right corner of your Zoom screen. You'll see a globe icon. If it will be turned on right after these instructions. If you're joining us via the Zoom smartphone app, select your language by clicking More or the three dots in the bottom right corner of your Zoom screen. Select Language Interpretation, then choose Spanish, and then click Done. If you wish to hear only the interpreter and not the original speaker, be sure to click Mute Original Audio.
Okay, I think we're ready to go. Thank you for your patience. We are also broadcasting our presentation tonight on Zoom. So we were getting that set up and getting the interpretation ready. It will also be recorded so that if you have to come back and access it again later, you can, or other people that want to watch it again at a later time. So welcome. Thank you guys all for being here tonight. We are here to talk about our brand new reading curriculum that we are using in kindergarten, first and second grade this year. So we'll be telling you a little bit about the curriculum, but most of our presentation is going to focus on how you can support at home. Okay?
I'm Megan Cribb. I'm a first grade English teacher.
And my name is Sean Powell. I'm one of the literacy specialists here, and I work with all the grades K through 5, but I kind of specialize in the primary grades, the foundational reading skills, sort of my area of passion. So I am going to sit today because I think I'm getting plantar fasciitis in my foot, so I'm not going to stand the whole time. So thank you for bearing with me as I roll around. What we are going to talk about today is what is UFLI. Tell you about that. What are the components of the instruction? What does it look like in a classroom? We'll talk about home practice, how you guys can support your student at home. We'll go over the digital resources that are available to you through this program. And we'll just talk at the end about who to ask for help and take any questions that we might have. So what is UFLI Foundations? So UFLI stands for the University of Florida Literacy Institute, and they are a part of the university there that's done a lot of research on how people learn how to read. They've done a lot of research with kids with disabilities who have trouble learning to read, but they've also done a lot of research on the process, and they have contributed a great deal of research to the science that we have behind how kids learn how to read now. So they've worked on this curriculum for years now, and it was created by teachers. They got a lot of teacher input and refining it. And so they put together everything that they knew and could gather from all of the science that's been done about how kids learn how to read over the last 30 years or so. So that body of work is kind of collectively known as the science of reading. You might have heard of that. It isn't one single thing, it's a collective amount of research that's been done about reading. So a lot of the things in here in this curriculum are taken from that. It teaches foundational literacy skills. So students are learning that letters make sounds, how to use those sounds to be able to read words and also to sound words. That's really the nuts and the bolts of reading and spelling. This curriculum is a very systematic and explicit curriculum. You start off from the most basic and the most easy skills, and then it progresses through those. So students are moving through it and building on the skills that they've learned in earlier lessons. So what are the components? What does it look like for your child in their classrooms? Before I dive in here, I just want to give, hi, welcome. I just want to say, because this is a new curriculum, and it kind of came about sort of at the last minute, at the end of the last school year, it's brand new to our teachers in kindergarten, first and second. So we are working really hard to train them on the curriculum so that they can use it to teach your children. And each grade level is sort of at a different point so far in the school year of where they are and when they're going to be ready to start these lessons. So first grade has dove right in. Kindergarten is still teaching routines and behavior expectations and all of that. They will be starting lessons a little bit later. And then second grade, sort of the same thing. They're sort of getting ready to start now. So I don't know exactly where everybody's at, but when we're talking about some of these things, it's highly possible that you've not heard about what's happening in your child's classroom yet, and you haven't seen any homework yet, and that's fine. We're still really early in the school year. It will be coming if you haven't seen it yet from your classroom teachers. So there are 8 components in each lesson for UFLI. And these components are the same for kindergarten students, first grade students, and second grade students. All of the lessons sort of follow the same structure and the same routine. So we'll go through these really quickly. Again, I want to get to the home practice part, but I also want you to know what it looks like for your child in their classroom too. So the first step is phonemic awareness. This is really talking about the sounds. You're hearing how you can put sounds together to make a word, like cat. You can also break words apart into sounds. If I say cat, then that's you telling the sounds. You would say cat. So it's really doing a lot of practice and work around these sounds. The next routine is called visual drill. That just means that your child is seeing a letter or combination of letters, and they are supplying the sound that that letter or letters make. So it's kind of sometimes it's done on the computer. We may go through letters on the computer screen, you can use flashcards, but it's a way of students seeing a letter, saying the sound, and building that automaticity. The next one is called an auditory drill. So for this one, it has to do with their hearing. The teacher's going to say a sound. So I might say the sound is at. The students have to write the letter that makes that sound. So this can look different. You can do this drill in a lot of different ways. You can do it by having your student use their finger and write in the air what the letter looks like. They can write it on the whiteboard with a marker. They can use their finger and draw it in sand if you have some sand to work with. It's just they have to know how to hear the sound and produce the letter or the letter combinations that make that sound. The next part of the routine is called the blending drill. So for this one, we give them a word, and their responsibility is to say each sound in the word in the order that it appears, and then put all the sounds together to read the word. So in this one, they would say, look, at, bat. We'd say the sounds, and then together. So UFLI lessons are typically broken into 2 days. So we have one lesson where they're learning a new concept, a new idea, and they have the first day, we go through kind of the first 5, maybe? First 4. The first 4 that we just went through, that's day 1 of the lesson. The next day, we would come back in and we would do the second half of the lesson, which starts with this part, which is called the new concept. A new concept is just a new skill or a new idea that they're learning about. So either new sounds that they're learning about or a different spelling pattern that they're learning about. So we would introduce whatever the letter or the letter combination is. We would teach them the sound that goes with that letter or letter combination. And sometimes it could even be a morpheme, which I'm not going to get into a lot of the details of that. But for example, if we wanted to teach them that in English, when we add an S to the end of a word, that means plural. So cat, we have an S, it's cats. It means more than one cat. That's an example of a morpheme. So they might be learning about how that letter changes the meaning of that word. So it's in the sixth routine, it's called word work. So this is where they are taking that new concept and they are practicing it. They are learning how to read words that have that skill in it, or that letter combination, or they are learning to spell with that. They're doing both reading and spelling to get lots of practice with the new concept. So one of the tools that we are using in this program to do that practice is called word chains. The word chains is something that you guys are going to become experts at because it's something that teachers are doing with your children in their classrooms every day during reading instruction. And also the homework that is being sent home includes a word chain component that we're going to teach you how to use so you can practice with your child at home too. Word chains are important because they just are giving additional practice and letting students think about how, when you change letters and sounds, what happens to the resulting word. They can learn how to manipulate all of that. The seventh routine is called irregular words. So in the past at our school, some of you may have learned it this way, we called words that we wanted your children to learn and memorize sight words. So you might have heard that before. We're kind of moving away from that. A lot of the research now shows that we've been telling people, oh, English is hard. You just have to know how to read some of the words. It doesn't make sense. Really, about 97% of words in English follow rules that allow you to sound it out. There's very few words that don't. So when we're teaching your children, we're really teaching them you are able to sound out almost any word that you come to. But when they're beginning readers, they haven't learned all of the sounds yet. So sometimes there are sounds that they just haven't learned yet. So that's considered something they have to learn by heart because they haven't been instructed in it. Then there's words like said, where the AI makes an unusual, the AI says and said. So we're going to put a heart underneath that letter and that letter combination to show them you have to just know that one by heart. You have to memorize it in that word, that letter combination makes the sound that you want. So you're going to see irregular words coming home in your homework, and if they have a heart under them, it shows you either your student hasn't learned that sound yet, or it is a letter combination that makes that unusual. The eighth section, the eighth routine is called connective text. So a lot of the work that we're doing before this is individual words. Reading individual words, or they're trying to spell, put letter sounds together to spell individual words. What we want for our students is to become really skillful readers and spellers and writers. So they have to know how to put all of that together. And then connected text is where that happens. Connected text just means that you have more than one word and you're putting words together in a meaningful way. So a sentence is an example of connected text. A paragraph would be an example. A book, a chapter in a book, anything where we're putting the words together so it makes meaning. There's a story. You're getting some meaning. That's connected text. So in the homework, when we'll go over that, we're going to ask them to read sentences. We're going to ask them to write sentences. And then we have texts that go along with each lesson, a short text like on one page where they can practice reading that focuses on the skills that they learned. And it's called decodable text because all of the words that are in that passage are words they either know how to sound out or words, irregular words that we've given them instruction on. So that means they should be able to read most of that text on their own. So that's what your child's instruction will be. First four categories on that on one day. The next day, the rest of the lesson. Then they'll get a homework sheet that will come home that focuses on that new skill. So the way that this curriculum is meant to be taught is that Monday and Tuesday, we will do one lesson over those 2 days. Wednesday, Thursday would be a second lesson for the week. And then Friday would be review and like checking to make sure that they have learned the new skill. So it would look kind of like a spelling test, but not like a traditional spelling test. It's really more focused on the sounds that they've been learning in those 2 lessons that week. So you should be getting 2 homework sheets home to you each week. That's if all is going as planned, because this is new curriculum in the beginning. It might go a little slower than that. We'll kind of see how it's rolling out, but that's what it should end up looking. So there are a ton of ways that you can practice with your child at home. And it might look different if you've got a kindergarten student to what you're doing at home with your second grade student, but a lot of the same tools can be used for both. You just adjust the skills that you're working with each other. So you can see some magnetic letters up here. There are some examples. There are some Velcro folders that we brought as examples that have letters in them, and the students can use those letters to practice building words. You can make a word, ask them to read it. So that's a good tool to use at home too. A whiteboard and a marker, right? Paper and pencil. Anything where they can produce the words is practicing their spelling. And of course, lots of books. I'm going to be asking our students to read other books, not just the diploma hats, but at the beginning, when we were just learning, we want them to focus on that first. But the more practice they can get at their level, the better. The thing for you guys to remember, for all of us to remember, the more practice we can give our students engaging with letters, sounds, reading, spelling, the easier and better they will become at being skilled readers. So it just takes a lot of exposure. For some students, it takes a lot more exposure than for others. Some students pick it up really quickly and understand it right away, and other students need more practice. So that's where it may become even more important for you at home to be doing extra practice too. So we kind of adjust. It's not always the same for every student.
And in reading through UFLI and understanding this program, one of the really neat things is when we introduce a concept, we're not looking for mastery right away. That mastery, we all want it, right? I just taught it to you, and we want them to know it. But it's the way they designed this is you're teaching them the skill, you're giving them the explicit practice with that skill. And on Friday, it's called progress monitoring. How are they doing with that skill? Do they have it? Do they need more practice? Or are they just not getting it? What I love about this program, it really models this progress monitoring that's so valuable for our students. So based on that Friday progress monitoring, as a teacher, we get so much information that guides kind of a smaller group focus of what they would need the following week. So if they're just not getting TH, especially our Spanish speakers, TH, they sound the same. And so I would not expect a home language Spanish speaker to get TH right away. But the beauty of this program is it's layered. There's continuing practice each week of previous skills and previous skills and previous skills. And then we have these checkpoints that allow us to give just that little extra look and practice for the kids who just need that extra practice. And the ones who don't, we just keep moving forward. I think that's a really amazing part of this program.
Thank you for adding that. I appreciate that. And while you were talking, it made me think of another part I wanted to share with you all, which is what this looks like is we're recommending for our teachers for 30 minutes a day, they're doing the lesson instruction for the whole class. And then for an additional 30 minutes a day is what is called differentiation. That's where we're taking kids in small groups and we're giving them extra practice where they need it. And that's determined by the progress monitoring that we do on Fridays. To see, are you getting it? Do you need more practice? Do you need more help? So then we're taking time every day to give them the exact help they need to know progress in what we're teaching. So it really is hopefully preventing kids from falling too far behind and making sure they're getting exactly the practice that they need. And one of the things I hope we'll refine as we go, this is new to us, we've got to figure out all the details, but we would like to find a way to be able to communicate with families as well, how their students are doing on those weekly progress checks, so that you also know, hey, your child really needs to do a little bit more practice on this. So we'll figure out what that looks like at every grade level, but how to communicate that so that you guys can support that process too. And we talked about that, thank you. Okay, so in the handout packet that you picked up, I forgot to talk about that at the beginning. The red pages are what we're gonna look at right now. So I gave everyone, you should have one example of a kindergarten homework, which I think should be first. And so if you notice, this is what the home practice sheets will look like at every grade level. They'll have the same sections on them, but the skills and the words and the sentences will be different. They will be appropriate for each lesson that the child is learning in their classroom. So for this one, and we'll go through each section in here so that we have the beginning of kinder 1. So this is lesson 5. This is very early on for kindergarten. And then I also gave you one for the beginning of first grade. So that at the top, you can see it says lesson 45. You can kind of compare and see, you can see that the skills are a little more advanced from the kindergarten one and the first grade one. And then I also gave you an end of second grade one. So you can see how it starts to look, they're reading bigger words, they're learning sounds that are not as evident and as easy as the ones you might have learned earlier on. But you can see the format of the homework stays the same. You're seeing the same types of sections there. The other thing that I gave you in your handout packet is a purple piece of paper, and it's the home practice guide. So the home practice guide explains each section of the homework. So it's something you can refer back to. On the front side is in English, and on the reverse is in Spanish. You have both languages there. The yellow pages at the front of your packet, I have requested to be translated into Spanish, but I don't have them yet. When I do, those will be accessible to you to have to if you need it in Spanish. So we're going to go through each section here together and kind of break it down and talk about what it means. So the first section on your child's homework page, oh, that's the other thing. You may hear teachers call it home practice, and they may call it homework. The same thing. Okay, the program tends to call it home practice, so you'll see that term. We have a new concept and sample words. So this is going to be a list of words that include the concept that your child has received instruction on for that lesson. So for this one, it's the SH that says shh. So you can see it in different words here, either at the beginning of the word or the end of the word. So for these words, what you want to do is you want to practice reading them, have your child practice reading the words so they can say the sounds of the words and blend them together, and practice spelling them. So you could, again, you can use a whiteboard and a marker. You could have them write it in the sand. If they like to do chalk on the sidewalk, you could go outside and do it chalk on the sidewalk. Make it fun for them because they're going to be more engaged in doing the learning then. Did you want to talk about your more specific one now, or?
No, let's show the section.
Okay.
And then I'll.
Thank you. Let's go to the next one. So then we have the one we mentioned earlier, which is the word work chains. So what this is taking them through a series of changes to a beginning word to help them understand what happens when you change a letter or you change a sound. So you would start off, this one for number 1, you would start off with the word shin. So you could be using letter titles, you could use, like we have these examples here. You could use some of the digital resources that I'm going to show you that can do the same thing. But you're going to kind of use the directions that are written underneath to walk your child through this process. So they start with shin, and then where you see number one, it says, make the word shin. So you ask them to spell it. You got it. Then you say, change the N to P. What word is this? You're asking them to read it again, right? Then you can say, change ship to shop. So then they have to be thinking about what happens, what changes there, and what letter do I need to change the sound that I'm hearing now. Right? And then change the P to T. What word is this? So you're kind of taking them back and forth, thinking about the reading piece, the spelling piece, and they're just getting a lot of practice with that target skill, that target sound that they learned in that lesson. We give you a script. The homework has a little script like that, so it tells you what to say. You can, if you feel comfortable with it, you can also keep going and do your own and have fun with it and make a game out of it. Feel free to do that, but we'll also always provide you with, here's what you can say exactly if you're not comfortable with it yourself. So, we want to try this. I don't, we might have enough folders for this. If you want to try it yourself, you know, I didn't even bring a sheet with me, and I meant to contain. Would you guys like to try it? Yeah, go and grab a folder. Okay, now you don't pass them out. So they should have all the letters of the alphabet, and then we'll have you start a word, so you can pull off the letters you need and put them on the blank squares, sort of in the middle. I'm gonna try to do this, just making it up as I go, so we'll see if I can figure it out. So let's start with the word cat. Go ahead and make the word cat.
Just get to do it flat with not Velcro on the left.
You want to check? We got C-A-T. All right. Stop tearing Velcro. Okay. Change the C to M. What word do we have now? Very good. And I heard some maths. Very good. Okay. Change the T to P. What word do you have now? No math. Hard to like what I can't see it. You have math? Okay. Change map to mop. What do we have to do there? You can kind of see the thinking that takes place here that helps your child practice thinking about the order of the sounds, what they have to change to turn a word into something, and then being able to sound out the word and read it. You can keep going with this for as long as you want. If your child loves this, just do it. I mean, I'm kind of a dork. I like these things. I would do this for a long time if I was a kid, but.
It's just that flexibility, that brain flexibility. And we ask the same thing when we do math. With our math facts, it's just that ability to manipulate parts in the whole. And boy, if they can have that level of thinking, then they're doing it when they're writing. So you can see this actual doing it with letters and how powerful that tactile is for them.
I would really recommend doing it if you can with letter tiles, or if you make a folder like this. I'm not gonna make a promise, but I am trying to build these folders and send one home for every student in kindergarten, first and second. So I'm working on it. I hope to have it sent home for you guys, but I'm not sure when that might. But it's coming. You could also just do this on a whiteboard too. They could just erase a letter and write another letter, and it doesn't have to be using these types of materials. Okay? You can do it any way that works for you. They could do it. I mean, my son used to have bathtub crayons. Those worked amazing when he was in kindergarten because it's just something fun. It was a toy to him that we practice letters and things like that. So you can get creative. You don't, the question was, if we make one of these materials at home, should we separate the vowels out? You can do either. Either is really okay. We do spend a lot of time talking about vowels and how important vowels are. So I probably would separate them out, but it would be the end of the word. Okay. Okay, maybe, oh, you want to say?
Yeah, and for second grade, obviously you saw radar on that page. Those boxes are a little limiting. I have seen just a line, too, or just having that flexibility of adding maybe a few more boxes, at the end.
I think the boxes are really good for our
They are.
kindergarten students.
Yeah.
And because they're really kind of learning how words even work, right? But once you have a student that kind of understands that, I wouldn't be necessarily giving them, certain spots where they have to put letters. You just have a line. We don't want to give our children we want to give them supports when they need them to help them learn how to do something. But once they know how to do it, we don't want to over support them there. Right? We want them to be able to challenge themselves and expand themselves to figure it out. Okay, so another part of do you want to grab them?
Yes,
Of course. Another part of the homework sheet that you'll see every time is new irregular words. So in some of the lessons, they learn new irregular words, not every single lesson. So sometimes you'll see a homework sheet come home that says, no, they didn't learn it. But if they do, you'll see whatever the new irregular words are. You may see that heart there to signify that they either haven't learned how to read that sound yet, or it's a sound that really is irregular and there's a rule that helps you learn it. So we tell them that some words have a tricky part. We have to learn it by heart, and that's what that heart kind of shows them. That's the part they have to remember how to read. You want to practice reading and writing these words as well, okay? And then if they have a little asterisk or a star next to them, what that tells you, that gives you a little bit more information. It tells you that that word is temporarily irregular. That means that they will be learning how to read that sound. It does follow a rule, but they haven't learned it yet. So right now it's still irregular for them, but it won't be forever. They've got to work their way through learning all of the spelling and sound patterns. And eventually, like this is an example of one, they're going to learn that at the end of the word is so long, and sound is an E instead of F. They have it yet in this lesson. And then the last part is the sentences. So there'll be 2 sentences, and you're going to ask your child to read the sentence, and then you can ask your child to write the sentence. I hope you're already noticing that every time we're reading, we're also writing and spelling. Reading, writing, and spelling. The 2 are really connected, so we want to be doing both all the time with our students. For the writing piece, if you have a student who is still struggling with writing and it's really hard for them maybe to spell or to figure out words, you could just have them copy the sentences. They could look at them and rewrite them. Or if they want a challenge, they're ready for a challenge, you can read them the sentence out loud and have them write it based on what they hear you say. Okay, yes, question? So UFLI includes handwriting instruction in it. I didn't include anything in here tonight because I was trying to keep us as concise as possible. In the past, our school has used handwriting without tears, but we are not this year because UFLI includes handwriting instruction. So in kindergarten, what that looks like is the very beginning lessons are how to write a straight line, how to write a curved line. So they really start learning how to hold the writing utensil, how to make the shapes of the lines they'll need to do the right letters. And then they are explicitly instructed how to make uppercase letters, then they move on to lowercase letters. So they're getting that instruction as part of this program. Thanks for asking, because I totally forgot to include that. And then the last thing that you might see sent home, and I think each grade level might kind of decide how they're going to use these, but there's a decodable text that goes along with each lesson. So it focuses on that concept that the students learned. So this example is from that lesson 45, where students were learning that SH says shh. So a lot of the words in this text have that letter combination in it. So we're asking students to practice reading this. Depending on how proficient your student is, you might need to help them sometimes. Maybe they're really good at reading it. If they're really good at reading it on their own, you can have them read it 2 or 3 times out loud to practice. If they need help, you can sit with them and help them, and maybe they read it once. right? The more practice they get, the better. The reason that this part is included is because even though they are beginning readers and they're learning how reading and spelling work, what they need to be able to do is to read and understand what they're reading. That's why we read. We're building up to that. So this is the now where they have the opportunity to use their skills to read something that means something. You can even talk to them, you can ask them questions about what they read. So for this one, they're talking about a ship. You can say, who jumped off the ship with a net? Trish did. So you can start helping them make connections between the skills they're learning to read are serve a purpose for them. There's a reason that we are using it. So this is kind of that beginning part for them to be a real reader.
And I'm going to speak for first grade. I know a lot of my first graders can't read this yet. And they'll get there. But so when you see this and you go, oh, even just getting a highlighter and having them go, shh, and just finding the SH, shh, 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 and highlighting the SH, you are already helping with that practice. There is great value in readers in first grade hearing great reading. So if I had a student, my own child, and they came home with a passage with SH, and I said, read it, and they can't, I'm going to do that, shh, shh, shh. And then I'm going to have them follow along as I model the reading. And so it would just sound like this, and I would really have them just kind of follow. Look at the ship. Fish and Josh jump on the ship deck. Notice I'm pausing at the periods. They're going to notice that. That's modeling that. And then Trish has a net to get fish. There is value in that. And that's part of that shared reading that just is the practice for them.
Thank you, Megan. That's always something too, I think families, when your student gets something sent home and you say, have your student read that, and then they can't, it can be very concerning to you as a parent. But that's a part of learning to read, right? So just like Megan said, you can help them get to where they need to be, and that's fine, because that's what they need right then to learn how to do that. If you are worried about your student not being able to do what you think they should do, reach out to their teacher, because the teacher can also say, oh yeah, half the class is struggling with that right now, and maybe that'll help you feel like, okay, this is okay, this is just where my student is at right now. Okay, so always, if you're worried about it, always reach out.
And so can I talk a little bit about that?
So I'm going to talk about that reaching out. We call it feedback. We want to hear your feedback. First grade, it's what we do. We do this work. We do this phonics. It's so part of how we teach reading. And so in first grade, we sent home this packet, and we called it a sneak peek. We just wanted you to look at it, kind of try to figure it out a little bit. When you look at this home packet, we read through it, and there is a lot of family agency in this. Agency means, well, you could do letters, or you could do the crayons in the bathtub, or you can do, you figure out how to do these. From your feedback, first grade parents, we listened, and we decided that there are parents that love this agency. It's part of how their family operates. But there are also families that just want to be told how to do this explicitly to do it. And so from your feedback, we already are making changes to the form of the home practice, which is actually giving you instructions for how to do it. So you could do both. You could do the agency, or you can follow the instructions. So I have to stand. So for the new concept, we are going to give instructions for exactly how to do that. And in the paper, you're gonna see, we actually are telling you where to write. I'm seeing a lot of, yeah, because those lines were too obscure. Just lines, you're like, what am I supposed to do there? I love that. See, your feedback, do not hesitate to email us and let us know, because it just helps us refine what works for you as a family. And so like the word chain, where do I write that? We actually explicitly are writing a spot that where you could do the word chain with a pencil. We did word chain manipulating letters, but this would be for a pencil. And then of course, where to put the sentences. So that we feel like this is gonna work, but you let us know, please. And then we're giving you kind of the verbiage for each section of how to go through that. And we'll have this in Spanish as well.
So that just shows you, like, this is still new to us, so we're taking feedback from families. We're trying to figure out how to make it easier, how to make it better. So we're gonna be sharing what families' feedback was from their families with kindergarten and the second grade too, so they can utilize that too, and we're gonna create these sheets for them. So you can kind of see how this is a living process, but we really do wanna hear from you about what's difficult, how can we make it easier? Because the more we have ulterior motives. The more your children practice, the better they do. I know that's important to you too. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you with what we send home and what you are doing. Okay, so digital resources. UFLI comes with some online resources that you can use. You don't have to use these. Using magnetic letters or writing on a whiteboard or using pencil paper is absolutely fine. But if you have a tablet or a computer and maybe your child is more engaged using that, or maybe you like it better, there are options that you can use digitally too. So I'm going to show you some of those really quickly right here. I think this time I'm going to see, because I think I can show you what they are. Oh, the first thing, and I think the most important thing, is we created what's called a Padlet. And basically that's sort of like a website where all of the resources are linked there. So what I'm trying to do is anything that might be helpful for families, I am adding to this Padlet. It's all about this reading curriculum. So you can find the homework pages there. You can find the instruction, the guide, the homework guide there. You can find the digital resources there. You can find anything. So if there's something that you find valuable that isn't there, you should tell me and I'll add it. So this is the way you can find this. Oh my God. Because it wasn't when they started school. It was added to the AEA website today, right before we got here. So if you go to the school website and you click on under AEA schools, you get to the elementary school, which is where I'm at right now. And then, and this is kind of little for you guys, I know. There's a section called Family Resources. And under that, you can see UFLI K-2 resources. It's on top of where all the grade levels are listed. So that link will always be there. You can always find it on our website. And a lot of teachers are also adding it to their class websites, their email signatures. So you should be seeing this link in all kinds of places so you can find it easily. So one of the things that you have access to is something called a virtual blending board. So this is where you can build words and ask your child to read them. So I'm going to click here and hopefully it will open. So this is what it actually looks like when you click on the link. You have letters that you can build. These are the beginning sounds in blue, the middle sounds in yellow, the ending sounds in green, and then if you wanted to add a final E to make a long vowel sign, you've got it in pink. You can click on these 3 lines here, and you can choose what other letters and letter combinations you want to include. So if you have a second grade student, you're going to want to add in the more advanced letter combinations down here, the blends, the 2 vowels together. So you can kind of customize this for where your student is at. I'm gonna keep it on the simple one for right now, just to show you how it works. Once you choose the letters you want, you just click on check mark. And then here you just click on letters. These my favorite word. So you would just click these on and you say, what does that say? And ask your child to read it. Okay, they can sound it out. They can either look at it and say cat, because they can recognize what it is, or they can say cat. Then you can say, okay, what is it now? So I clicked on another first sound and it just changed it. So you can see the word change is happening here too, right? So then they would say nut. Then I can go to the ending sounds. You click to change the ending sound. Okay, what is this word? You can change. And the other cool thing is, like if you look at the vowels here, you can see that some of them are look sort of grayed out. That means that if you chose one of these, it would still put it up there, but it's no longer, it's not a real word in English. They can still read it. They know the sounds. They can say meh, but it's just not a real word. So that kind of helps you have a clue here too. You can do that too. It's good practice, or you can change it to a word. So this is just, and some of your children might have a lot of fun building words on here too, just choosing the letters and reading the words. So this is one of the resources that you have. We also have, similar to the folders that we have you try out, these are called word work maps. We have two different ones. The first one is called the beginner map, and that's for lessons 1 through 43. So that's one of the important things to know for your own practicing and using some of these resources is what lesson is my student's class working on. That kind of helps you know what level they're at when you're choosing some of these.
It's always on the top of the decodable text.
Yeah,
That's
the
like
homework,
exact number.
the home practice that comes home and the decodable text will always have the lesson number at the top, so you can always find them. So you've got the beginner one here, which you can see is much more simple. And then you've got the intermediate one here. This would really be for, more advanced first graders or second grade students. And the beginner one is really for kindergarten and beginning of first grade. So I'm just going to pull up the beginner one. So all it is you've got letters that you can drag. If you're on a tablet, you can just, push your finger to do it. On the computer, drag it up. Do my favorite word again. I'm a cat lover, so it's always cat. So you just drag the tiles up. And then, so you could say, can you spell cat? And you could ask them to drag the tiles up. Or you could drag the tiles up and ask them to read it. You can use it either way, reading or spelling, right? Then you can say, okay, I'm gonna drag this tile on top of the C. Now what word is it? So again, here you can do some word chains again, reading, spelling, changing the sounds. The one thing, for this one, to make it go away, you just click this little back arrow over here, and then you can start over again. So those are the word work maps. I'm going to click the intermediate really quickly and show you. So it's a little busier because there are more sounds now, more letters and letter combinations that your student has learned that they need to learn how to spell with and manipulate. You can see we've got, and it tells you over here what these are called. We're talking about the specific names with students for what these are called. You don't have to know them, but sometimes it's helpful, they're labeled. So again, you can drag the letters to where you want them to make a word. And then you can change it around. Let's see, I'm gonna grab another one. And change shirt to sheet. There's just another tool that you have to use.
And thinking about our readers in K, first and second grade, a lot of second graders, sometimes in first grade, it just clicks and they are readers and I'm reading chapter books. Not an expectation in first grade, but they just are. And then, this is not a value. But I'd like to challenge you to teach young students the different sounds that match OU.
I think it makes 5 or 6.
Yeah. And so, this is so much for their writing. And then just really understanding how English works. Oh, we don't say OU, oh, that's tricky. We say OU spells 6 different sounds, and you're gonna learn them. And we're starting with this one. And so, you know, don't let your student, I read chapter books, I don't need this word. This is for spelling, this is for writing as well.
Make them experts. You guys will be experts too. They'll be teaching you too. So another cool thing they have are games that are tied to the skills that your students are learning. I'll be really honest with you, I have not yet had time to do anything with the games. So I can't really tell you a whole lot about them. You can see there's different ones to choose from. And I imagine that when you click on them, you can choose the skills that you want to practice. There is a video tutorial that UFLI provides that teaches you how to use these, and that's on the Padlet that's there for you too. I just can't speak to them too much tonight because I've not had time to get to the games quite yet, but they're there. So it's nice to have that option too. This slide everything we just went over, it has the links to those things on it as well. The slideshow and our presentation will be posted on our website, probably, I don't know, a week or so after we're done here. So all of this will be accessible. I'm also going to ask classroom teachers to resend this all out to you too, so you have it. But if you don't have anything else, the UFLI Padlet, click on it here. Yes. This is where I'm trying to house everything you might need. So this is the one place to come to if you're looking for something. If you're looking for something that your teacher told you about or that you heard about and it's not here, reach out either to your classroom teacher or directly to me so that I can help. I'm trying to make this really helpful so it has everything you might need to answer questions or to do practice or learn more. Okay? Okay, we're almost done. I'm gonna end a little early, which is good. So who do you ask for help? We kind of touched on this earlier. Really, your first person is always your child's classroom teacher. They really know exactly what's going on with that classroom instruction, and they'll be able to kind of answer probably most of your questions. I'm always available though too. If for any reason you can't reach the teacher or you just want to reach out to me, that's fine too. But there are some questions I won't be able to answer because like, I don't know exactly what Mrs. Krim does for her classroom schedule. So she might have to give you some more information. But I can answer any questions you have about reading in general, writing in general, things you can do at home. If you're worried about something with your student, I'm happy to brainstorm with them, figure out what you need to do.
And
Again, something that really excites me about UFLI is as an elementary school parent, you often don't know what's going on in the classroom. And you don't get that feedback from us. And this is going to be your feedback. You are going to know exactly where we are in what we have to do in the state of California and Common Core standards. You are going to know SH digraphs. This is where we are. And then we will definitely come up with a way to share the progress monitoring with you. So I just think you're going to have more information. And I think that's going to be a relief to you. And it's going to make us more explicit about showing exactly where we are. And it won't be a mystery. So I think that's really exciting for me as a teacher, but I know as a parent.
All right. Do you have questions? Or anything you saw tonight, or you didn't talk about, that you're curious about? Yes. There looks like so I'm going to repeat the question for people on Zoom. So the question is, are there books that are linked to the curriculum that you can have access to? So the first thing is the decodable text that go along with each lesson, but there actually is, UFLI provides a resource that sort of, I can't remember what it's called now, but what it does is it takes some really common other decodable book publishers, and it corresponds those texts to the lesson that's being learned. So that is something that I can also add to the Padlet. I haven't yet. And that we can be providing out to you too, because there's lots of resources out there. The hard part as a parent is knowing, is this appropriate for where my student is yet? So that's something I can work on. The way that they presented it on their website is a little confusing. So I'm gonna see if I can make it a little more clear and share it out, because I think that's a really good resource to have too. Thank you for that question.
And then AI chat. You can put SH, make your simple text with SH.
That is true. AI, for those of you who are risk takers and want to try it out, you can say, write a text or write a story that includes the SH at a first grade level or whatever your grade level is, and it will generate something for you. It's kind of fun, pleasant. But that's another option as well. Any questions online?
Yeah, I did have a couple questions. One was, which lessons do they start at in second grade?
Okay, so the question was, which lessons do they start at in second grade? So there's a suggested starting point, because this is a brand new curriculum to us. We're just going off of the suggested starting points for the grade levels right now. But what we have to do as teachers is, as we do our beginning of the year assessments and see where our students are at, we may adjust that somewhat. So I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Okay, hold on. I know first grade is 35A. Second grade is, I think, 48. I might have to double check. So if the person that asked that question wants to email me, they can, for me to double check.
And then I had another question about, when will the kindergartners get their kinder sheets coming home?
So kindergarten right now is still working on kind of their classroom routines and building all of that. So I'm hoping that we can get started with them. I don't want to commit because I don't know where our kindergarten routines are right now. Soon, probably in the next couple of weeks. Kindergarten has a series of lessons that they have to teach first to introduce what's called the sound wall that they'll have in their classroom. So they don't have homework sheets right away for their first probably 2 to 3 weeks of instruction. So just because you haven't seen a homework sheet for kindergarten yet, don't be concerned. They're starting off introducing how it is all set up in their classroom and what's happening. And then I think lesson 5 for them is when they start with homework practice. So it'll probably still be 2 or 3 weeks in Canada before you see them.
And back to school night.
Oh yeah,
They will.
back to school night is on September 12th. So that is another time when you will get a lot of specific information like that from each of your classroom teachers. So they'll be able to go over exactly what's happening in their classroom, what it's looking like. So that's another place and time where you will have a touch point to kind of get some specific information about your class and your grade level. That helps.
And then also another parent was asking if they could also have these practice sheets accessible either on the website or if they're going to be sent home with the kids.
So the home practice sheets, I'm so excited to say, are on the Padlet. So anybody who can go to that Padlet link, I'm trying to remember which category they're under. Home practice, I think there's a home practice category. And then you can find the home practice sheets. They are in there by lesson number, starting at lesson 5, which is the first time there's a homework sheet, and going all the way through the program. So you guys have access to those at any time, which actually could be helpful if you have a student who's working ahead and is working above maybe where the class is at, or even a student that needs extra help, so you want to go back a few lessons. You have access to all of those. You can get them at any time. Of course, you can always ask teachers for them too, but they're there on the Padlet so that you can even preview what's coming up. Right? You can see, oh, we're on lesson 48 right now. I know that we're going to be on 50 next. I can kind of look and see. So that's just another resource to give you kind of a sneak preview if you want to know what's coming too. Any other questions?
And then I had another parent said that they still don't understand what they need to do for their kindergartners. So I guess like what they can do at home to support their kindergartners.
So I am going to ask for the parent that wants to know specifically for kindergarten what they can do. For now, they just need to hold tight because they should be getting information coming home from teachers about what can go with this program and other things that they can be doing. And I think that back to school night on September 12th is going to be really helpful to answer those kinds of questions too. I don't know the specifics for kinder, like what exactly they're sitting home and asking parents to do. I just know when it goes with UFLI. So I actually think that, I'm guessing that kinder parents might start seeing homework sheets around the time of back to school night, because that may time out for when the instructions happen. So hopefully they just have to be a little patient on that. Right now, we're really just working on for our kinder students.
And that's pretty typical for kindergarten.
Yeah.
To wait a few weeks.
Yeah.
Just really, they're exhausted.
Just being at school all day is a big task for our kinder.
Let them be exhausted.
Yeah.
And then I just had one more question. Are the practice sheets the same as the homework that is sent home?
They should be, unless we have a grade level that sees a need that maybe needs to send something extra home. The program itself, the home practice sheets are always the same, just with the specific concepts.
And then, I can speak to first grade.
And I think there's been some confusion because we will be sending home one kind of homework during German. And we've already had a sneak peek for that. It's only going to come home German. And then the UFLI stuff is what's going to be coming home English week. And I think that will help with you guys at home with what we're supposed to do.
Thank you for pointing that out. I'm singularly focused on our reading homework because that's what we're talking about. But your children will also have other homework, they'll have math homework too. And different grade levels usually decide how they're presenting that. There might be a menu, there might be a packet that's coming back on Friday. It may look different. So again, back to school night is where you can get those exact instructions and what it's going to look like for your child this year in their classroom. Great questions, you guys. Yes.
I'm really excited about this. I think such a lovely way to keep families connected to and might be able to take my question. Like typically ask this question at the literacy opportunities is how will this mirror what is happening with German language instruction? For example, I really appreciated when you gave the example of the morpheme test, the plural. And I just anecdotally know like that's it. I'm just wondering how this might eventually transfer in terms of what comes from German.
That is such a great question, and it is way too early right now for me to be able to answer that. But our long-term goal with phonics instruction in our early years has been to try and mirror as much as possible what the phonics instruction looks like in English for the English sounds and as well as the German sounds. Some of our grade levels, first grade in particular, has done a really nice job with that. And the German teachers have been really curious about how the English teachers have provided this instruction and have tried to implement some of that. But so far we don't have a systematic way of making that happen, but it's on our list of wanting to make that happen. So I think for now, we're just taking German teachers who are curious and interested and ready to kind of do that learning and that work, are already reaching out to their English counterparts and having those conversations. But it isn't at a level yet where we're like, yes, this is what we're doing with our German phonics instruction. It is a wish list item.
The professional learning right now. And for those that aren't. So it's not obligatory right now.
No.
Okay.
No, not yet.
But with this being so explicit, it's gonna drive it. Because it's modeling, again, it's that modeling of the progress monitoring. We're supposed to progress monitor all the time, but to be so systematic about it, this program is gonna model that. It's gonna model it for, yes, that's it. it's gonna drive
And
it.
I don't know how they're doing in German other than what comes home on the report card, right? And so this is so explicit, and I would love to see that eventually.
And some of this work has already started over the last 5 or 6 years. We've had some German teachers in first grade that have been very motivated. And when I first started here, there was no systematic way of assessing German phonics ability in our students. They were learning the German language, and it was more of a vocabulary-based thing. But over the years, we had a couple of teachers that developed an actual German phonics progression. They used a phonics curriculum from Germany, and that's kind of what's been now driving that. So what they are doing now is it's a really good curriculum because it's also very systematic and explicit. It moves students through and builds on what they learned before. And then we've also created a phonics assessment for German that we didn't used to have. So I feel like the German piece of this is just lagging behind, and they're taking what the English side is doing and implementing, but it's just behind because they're having to build it themselves. And we don't have something for German that looks like this, so although the curriculum they're using is really good, it just is a little different. So yeah, I that's kind of where we want to get for our biliterate, so that they are reading and writing, speaking and listening in 2 languages, at least 2 languages. We have to be doing that work too, but which is a little too early on this one to kind of be knowing what we're going to do, but it's on the burner. We want to get there. Thank you for that.
And I'm hearing the feedback. I want to know. How does the German language work? And the Spanish right in there too, and how they're all connected, that language tree. And that's the thing, another thing I love about this, it's a code. It's a code, and we really want this English code to be solid, because they can apply a code to German. They can apply this code to Spanish and other home languages. Because we're giving them explicit skills to the code that's language learning of what we have. The feedback I hear from you is, again,
That's a really good point. So if you have students at home who are learning to read and write in another language like Spanish, you can use these strategies with the sounds that are specific to Spanish or German or Russian or whatever. You can use the same strategies, right? It's thinking about sounds that go with letters and how we read them and how we write them. They just have to learn the sounds for each respective language, and then we can become literate in that language as well. So it's giving them that foundation to understand how language works, and that there's different codes for different languages, but the functioning of the sounds in those letters are the same for most languages, not all. The ones that have letters, yeah, alphabetic letters. I can't not speak to languages like Chinese. No, I'm not familiar with that. Any other questions? Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for the questions that you had, for your attention tonight. My email is up on the screen here. Feel free to contact me. My phone number is up there too. You can text me on that number as well. Yeah, glad that you guys came. We'll be getting more information from your classrooms, and you guys will be instrumental in helping us make this program as successful as we are hoping it will be for our students. So thank you.